After big moves like we had last week off the Fed, you get a period of consolidation. What does that mean? It means you chop around, not really going anywhere. Well, we'll see on the S&P chart what the bulls have to do. The Bears, I don't know. They're not really standing much of a chance here unless we get some real bad news on something. Got a few earnings. China must be talking to Jerome Powell. They're doing a little QE. China stocks on the move. They're helping a lot of U.S. stocks as well. T3 Tuesday, Derek Oldensmith at 8:35. We're fired up to help you guys out on Pre-Market Prep.
Welcome to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
All right, good morning, traders and investors around the world. Welcome to this edition of Pre-Market Prep. S&P's up a couple handles, 57.81 and a quarter. The old double close is what we got to keep an eye on. Just below here, you have the old-time closing high and then the close from yesterday. The buck flat, 10054. TLT, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit. After that half-point rate cut, been taking some heat here, down 85 cents at 97.82. Nice $10 move in crude, up $1.63 into 70 handle at 72 even. Gold just dangling at all-time highs, down $1.70 at 26.50. Silver going the opposite way, back in the 31 handle. That's up a dime, 31.18. Bitcoin futures holding steady at 63,560. Let's bring in Triple D and AB simultaneously here on this Tuesday. Gentlemen, I am adjusting to the time. I only got up at like 5:30 today as opposed to 4 o'clock. So getting the kinks out from my Paris trip, but I'm just fired up. I mean, it's just like this is still feels like the middle of the afternoon for me with that 6-hour time change. But I don't want to hear how sleepy and how tired you are and how the kids are like dragging you through the mud and how late AB stayed up hitting a quadruple parlay on the double Monday night game.
He knows our lives. This guy knows our lives. It's got it perfectly.
Well,
yeah, and I was up late trading stocks, and this is just a weird market where it's a lot of just random moves. I still think it's kind of random walk. I know we're kind of climbing, and there's certain stocks that seemingly go up every day, but it's a lot of random moves every day too. And news, random headlines coming out, moving stocks as well. It's weird, and then even random news coming from China here, AB, because you got these China stocks all popping up, and it looks like maybe finally the Chinese government's going to try to help their stocks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would call it random, just because we've known that the Chinese economy has had some of these issues, and certainly in the property and the real estate sector. And what do central banks do when the economy is struggling? Typically, they try to, cut rates and offer some sort of easing monetary policy. So the PBOC, the Public Bank of China, cut a key interest rate and plans to reduce the amount of money banks need to hold in reserve in order to boost lending. And then all alongside a package of measures to shore up the property sector. So all these announcements have resulted in Chinese stocks just absolutely ripping overnight. It doesn't matter whether you're looking at the Chinese auto companies, whether you're looking at, your Alibabas, your JDs, or even some American stocks that have exposure to China. So if you're long the China trade, you woke up this morning and your portfolio was very, very green.
We're a little bit long the China trade. It's starting to work. The Bobster, AB. You got to be up in there too. Where'd you buy the Bobster?
So I bought it a few different times. My total, average cost is probably around like $75. I want to say. So I'm looking good on it right now. But the thing is at like $95, like I don't. It's still pretty much just as cheap as when I bought it at. So when you look at the chart that's on the bottom right, you know, it doesn't look like we've made that much progress, even though we've gone from, you know, 60, a low of like what, $67 up to 95. So that's a pretty good move there. But if you zoom out and you look at the long term, Baba still really hasn't gone anywhere.
That's a pretty good average price.
That's better than probably 99% of the investors out there on the average price. I'm in about 81. My average is 81. So, and I've been up, down, and all around in this thing. I was at one point in time, I was up $10 in it. Then I was down $10. Now I'm back up $13. And I'm like, you know what? You probably should just take the money and run. I say this on the China stocks. I said it when I was up 10 and I didn't do it. And I'm in my long-term portfolio and I'm trying to say, oh, well, eventually, you know, China's going to get behind their stock. So it's a good headline. It's a good headline if the government's going to start supporting the stocks a little bit more here. But we've just seen every time these things seem to rally and you think this is the time, it's the time to sell. So I don't know. Joel, tell us the technicals. Where can the
Yeah,
bobster
you
go?
know what, man? I was thinking, I mean, the only way to really put the hexamona on this stock is if I jumped into it. And
is there? I don't think there's a single. I don't think there's a single stock where all three. You know,
I'm sure there are.
All of us are in.
I'm sure. I mean, some of the.
Is there one? I'm overlapped in Joel on a couple. I know for sure. And a couple bad ones like Intel. Did you ever buy Intel? AB?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
Oh, you don't.
All right, sorry. I interrupted Joel. Joel, give us the.
No, I just want to say, look at this chart. Okay, the monthly, and I made it bigger, right? And what do you see here for the first time that maybe I'm going back all the way to 2016 here. What are you seeing for the first time?
Higher high.
I'm looking more like the support, you know, like this.
Which chart are you looking at? The one on the right?
I'm looking at the monthly.
I'm just looking at this huge stock that was $300 and fell off.
Look at this under $80. Look at these monthly lows here.
You're getting some buyers.
You're finding buyers where this is how stocks move. Institutions pick a price, okay, and then they say I want as much as I can get. It's finally after all this mishmash, they decided they wanted to be in at 70. All right, and they tried that for a couple months, right? And it got away from them a little bit, and then they started up their price. So that 70 was great support. They bumped it up to like the higher 70s, right? And now you're busting above 80. So it's like now you're $15 away from 80. I don't know if anyone's going to be chasing it here, but I don't see a period of as many monthly lows in the same area really at any point. Here you only had 3. Here you had 3. Here you had 4. You're talking, at least 6, 7 monthly lows, like in the same area. So I don't know. I like it. I love the chart. You get over 100, you clear 100. You set, a bid at 100. The most important things for this is like to establish a bid underneath the market and continue to move higher on a shorter term basis. If you're looking for a short term target, which I know you guys aren't, that's 95.40. Really on the monthlies, I mean, you got to be thinking about triple digits right now if the momentum continues here in Baba.
I will say, I mean, I was thinking about it. I was like, but my average cost is that on this position in Baba, because I did, start and close a position earlier when it was up in like I think when it first started crashing, it went to like I think it went to around 180 or 200. I was like, oh, this thing is so cheap, and started buying it. It just kept moving lower. So I sold it all and then I bought it back after a while. So this position I have a good price average cost on, but not overall. Some other stocks, or sorry, go ahead. Dennis.
Let's stay with the China theme.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Sure. I wanted to just pick on my portfolio here for a bit because Baidu has been an absolute dog for me. It is starting to perk up here too. Possibly with the worst time downgrade in the history of downgrades. HSBC last night downgrades Baidu to hold and throws in the towel. And then QE comes and it goes up 4% in their face. So they couldn't take it anymore. And they obviously should have taken it for 1 day longer. I like the story here. I like the valuation. I like the AI story. It helps with the self-driving. I mean, there's so many things it's doing right, but they absolutely just hate China stocks. So I don't know. I've got a big position in Baidu. It's a big one, but it's twice as big as my Baba position. I'm down, and I think my average price is about 100. So it hasn't been great, but I feel like it's starting to come around. Joel, give me some good news on this stock. Does it look as good as
Well,
the Baba chart?
I mean, this is, I mean, as far as like being able to still get in on the cheap, I kind of like it, right? I mean, it's closer to the low of the move. But man, if this thing can get above 90 and hold 90, it looks nice here. Multiple highs at 90, 91. You traded over 92 in the pre-market. A lot of times you see these pops overnight and they're a little bit faded during the day. I mean, that's not necessarily mean it's going to happen today. But I think if if that Baidu can establish a strong 90 bid, you should make it an extra duper super triple extra large position because it has
It's
some.
slightly larger than a normal size position for me. I've liked it for a while, and it's been terrible. I really have never been up on this. I was buying, I was going down, and I guess that just goes to show don't buy stocks that are going down, buy them when they're going back up. So maybe it starts to look a little bit better here, but it's been a bad one. But maybe eventually it's going to be a good one. I hope so.
All right, give me some other quick China stocks, and then we'll move.
PDD,
Oh,
the one that everybody loved for so long, and then it got harpooned on the last earnings report, losing 50 points in 3 days from $140 stock. That's a serious move, folks. Starting to perk up here again, and now you get the pop here overnight, up 5. Joel, AB, thoughts on PDD?
I just don't. I mean, like, if you're looking at the news coming out of China and what's driving the stocks higher this morning, a company like PDD, which is, of course, Timu's parent company, and they're making all these, cheap goods and selling them on the American marketplace. I don't know if that's the one that, like, I'd be chasing here because I just don't think it's benefiting as much as some of these other stocks from the economic easing in China. And you have this question now where they're trying to, the Biden administration was talking about the de minimis rule that was kind of making these goods from Temu exempt from taxes in the US. And now they're talking about getting rid of that, which could really hurt the business. So like, again, like this one, I don't know how much is actually going to end up benefiting from the QE in China right now.
all right, and then NIO. Let's get in a pop.
Neo, you're going to Neo? What about JD? There's better ones than that. Neo, who thinks of Neo? Is that still a stock?
BYD, Li Auto, Geely.
Are those still stocks?
Stocks.
Lee's held up, I guess, but Neo, what a disaster this has been. What was the all-time high in Neo? $66 to $5. Blech.
I like the so some of the other, if you just look at some of the commodity stocks, so steel, copper, like those, stocks are now going higher because they were beaten down because the economic situation in China. People were saying, okay, well, if China's not doing well, China makes up so much demand for whether it's steel, copper, some of these other commodities, even oil. And so if the idea is that the Chinese economy is going to start heating up, these commodity stocks perked up a lot. And if you look at Southern Copper, I want to say Southern Copper was up. SCCO was up, 4% this morning on the news. So like, I think the copper, steel, some of these commodity stocks is where I would go to play this move if you believe in the Chinese turnaround.
I mean, it's not going to flow through like absolutely super quickly immediately to these companies. So I mean, Alcoa's getting a pop. I mean, and what were some of these other stocks?
SCCO. So if you look at if you look at
Southern Copper.
If you look at Southern Copper, SCCO, I mean, the stock has gone down from its highs in May more than like 20%. On this assumption that there is a global economic slowdown, particularly in China. And people look at copper a lot. Oh, Dr. Copper, you can see the strength of the economy. If copper's going up, that means the global economy is doing well. And my point is just basically that, like, this was all on the assumption that the economy is slowing down globally. If we don't actually see that, then I think Southern Copper pops back up to where it was trading in May. Again, like you said, it's not going to happen overnight, but those are the ones that I'm interested in if there is this Chinese turnaround.
I mean, I was in Alcoa for a bit. I thought about rebuying it under 30. Obviously, should have. Hindsight capital's always 20/20. It's perking up here a little bit too, but I kind of feel like you're in the middle of almost coming back into resistance. Like this whole 35, 36 area used to be resistance. Then it broke out. Then it came back. 50% retracement of the moves brings you back into here. I know we kind of put in some work here. I want to see a sustained 36 bid here. Let's see what it does today.
Also on the China news, kind of a tangent here, but you mentioned Tesla up, and I have a hunch that yesterday. So yesterday, the same type of speaker series that I saw the U.S. Steel CEO speak at. They had Lael Bernard, the former vice chair of the Federal Reserve. Now she is the head of the National Economic Council, and she spoke a lot about what the U.S. Administration is doing to kind of curb Chinese influence, especially in the auto industry. I mean, she was speaking in Detroit, so she was talking a lot about the auto industry. And just yesterday, they announced this thing where they're banning Chinese cars that they call connected cars. So cars, like smart cars like Teslas that can connect to other cars that collect data. They're basically banning cars that have that Chinese software. So you got to assume that's good news for Tesla, because if someone wants to buy the latest model of smart car and you rule out any type of Chinese models, Tesla becomes like the most advanced model available for Americans. So she spoke about that and other, obviously the tariff on Chinese EV imports, 100% tariffs, which is going to hurt companies like BYD that instead of being able to flood the U.S. market, now you've got these tariffs coming in. So it was an interesting speech, and she was going hard on China. So interesting to see the Chinese news and Chinese stocks pop right after watching that speech yesterday.
I don't know that China, if it's going to be sustained or not. And to your point, both administrations, it doesn't matter if it's Dems or Republicans, we've said that, are going to go hard against China. So that can't be that great for them longer term. Short term, they're perking up. Tesla is breaking out. You got the robo-taxi event on October 10th.
What is that?
10-10.
10-10. Yeah. I mean, I like being long stocks ahead of reports. I like being long stocks ahead of events. Like we're like, what are we? 2 weeks out, basically a little over 2 weeks out here. So it's not surprising it's starting to perk up a little bit too. My position on Tesla. I think dips should be bought.
Yeah, you're filling the gap. If you sat through that July gap, you're back there and filling it. Only run daily high here, where my cursor is, and that's at 55.76. A little bit more interest to me in today's session, or a little bit if you're looking to lighten up there. Triple D. There's a pair of highs at 58.5. That'd be another $4, probably fit within the average trading range for Tesla. So keep an eye on that. Trading pre-market high right now. Have someone peeling out here just under 255 in Tesla, but trading up nicely this morning. And in the absence of like bad news, right? There's like, if there's things that negative things aren't said, by Musk, the stock has the propensity to continue to move higher.
Even with what he says, like he said some bad stuff, like that would tick a lot of people off, but the stock continues to climb here.
What did I miss?
Biggest risk. The biggest risk. What's that?
What did I miss that he said?
Well, the Harris comments, like with Trump in the tweet, that's what everybody was talking about. So he tweeted out, basically, why is nobody trying to assassinate Harris if they're all trying to assassinate Trump? Insinuating that's the Dems behind it. That's kind of what the tweet I kind of read into it. But people were really upset about that tweet. Like,
isn't that a felony?
It's not good to say. The way he worded it, like he definitely, the biggest risk to Tesla is not Musk, his brain. His brain is awesome. It's his mouth. And then he's got, he owns a social media platform, one of the biggest ones. It's somewhat scary. That is the biggest risk to the bull thesis, in my opinion, is his mouth. And does he say stuff that eventually just pisses off the entire customer base or half the customer base that they don't buy the cars? That's possible. I mean, that is a risk to the thesis. The other risk is, that people really hate this guy. I mean, they really hate this guy. So there's just there's risk to Musk. The mouth is the biggest issue.
All right. Well, also I will mention that Tesla, with yesterday's price action, is now green year to date. So it was red year to date up until it passed the 249 mark yesterday. So Tesla set to open another $4 higher. You talk about strength. The stock is up nearly 20% in the last month. Let's keep things ticking. So we'll continue watching the China trade, see if any other stocks are popping up on this news. But let's move to some earnings. We did have AutoZone report earnings this morning, and the stock is down. It looks a lot worse than it is because it's such a big stock, down more than $100, but that's only about a little less than 4%. The earnings came in EPS of EPS of 48.11, missed the $53.53 estimate. Sales came in at $6.2 billion, missed the $6.22 billion estimate. So AutoZone shares are trading down on this report this morning. You obviously have some close peers on the market with O'Reilly, carparts.com maybe. So either way, I guess people aren't fixing up their cars as much.
What's carsparts.com symbol?
PRTS. PRTS.
What?
PRTS, but it's a tiny stock.
Okay.
It's not
Less
a
than $1.
decent stock.
Dennis,
I've never
give-
traded it before. Never even knew it existed. I guess maybe I saw it when it's back at $20. Stocks go to $20 to 90 cents. Man, they're usually going off the board. And we know Advanced Auto Parts has had all kinds of problems. It was three big players: Advanced Auto Parts, AAP, and O'Reilly, or AutoZone. I said AAP twice. And now there's two. There's AutoZone and O'Reilly because AAP is just a mess. So you've got the story of two. O'Reilly, you can do technicals on that one here too. It's going to get hit today, Joel. It has been run into a wall of resistance up here. AutoZone is probably a victim of its own successes. Wow, it was a mess, but I mean the stock has been pretty much a monster compared to the other ones. $1,000 stock 4 years ago, $3,000 stock now. It's been an unbelievable performer, really.
I look at these stocks and I look at sectors, and Dennis and I, we kind of disagreed on this a little bit. I mean, O'Reilly. I mean, if I was an O'Reilly shareholder, looking at this consolidation period and look what some of these other stocks did, I had my head on a swivel. I'd say as long as it holds 1,100 here, it's good to go. But usually, stocks in this sector, if two or three go down, they usually end up dragging the other one. You could call about the best in breed. It's best in breed until it's not. But I don't know. I'd be cautious. Long consolidation. If you got a chance to sell look at all that resistance at 1140. I mean, on the monthlies, and I talk about institutions, I think you got some big boys peeling out of this at 1145. As far as AutoZone today, I mean, these kind of stocks are hard. There's a double monthly bottom if you're looking for support. Well, that's way down at 2730. Split your stock, AutoZone, so we could talk about it more.
Yeah. If anybody needs a split, it's AutoZone.
Yeah,
because
split
I
your
always want to
stock.
trade this stock, and it's a $3,000 stock. It's got a 5-point spread on it all the time, and it's just annoying. You got to trade it with smaller size, but I don't like trading anything under 100 shares. So it's annoying to have to trade this in an odd lot to really even do anything with it. Split the stock.
Richard said people like O'Reilly, and I'd have to agree with that. I am very non-mechanical, and like every once in a while, I have like minor things that I know I don't need to take it in for the dealer for, and I don't feel like looking up on YouTube how to do it. And you kind of go in there, and oh, you got the part. Oh yeah, can you help me with this? And like, oh yeah, when we have time, and then they come out and they do everything for you. Then you slip the guy a Jackson or something, and I really like them there. Very great customer service.
There you go. That's your pro tip of the day.
On the ground.
Real quick, this was not in our list on the pre-market, but Dennis, I know you've been asking for a heads up when executives are speaking. This is not at an event per se, but Novo Nordisk CEO is testifying at a Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee hearing today at 10 a.m. about high drug prices. So this was called on by Senator Bernie Sanders, basically saying like, hey, why if these drugs are so good for, obesity and diabetes and all this, why are you charging $1,000 a month or whatever it is? So, prescription drug prices, something that's definitely in focus in the U.S. as we head into the election. I have a feeling they're going to be kind of hard on them and say that there's no reason for them to be charging this much for these drugs. Of course, they're a private company. They'll say there is a reason we're charging this much for the drugs. I
saw the commentary from 2 days ago. He said he can't control the pricing. That's news to me, but that was his comment.
Yeah, I don't know what
They
that.
don't control the pricing. I know that's what the comment was. They don't control the pricing. I was like, really? Like, it's news to me, but I think that's his defense is that it's just kind of the market supply and demand, and they don't control the pricing. Interesting commentary.
Well,
Yeah.
when I
Go
went
ahead.
to the speech yesterday by Lael Bernard, she talked about that because she was talking about inflation and how inflation has come down a lot, but she highlighted two areas where inflation remains way too sticky, and that's in housing and rentals, and then prescription drugs. And she said, her words, not mine, that in the U.S. we still pay 3 times more for the same prescription drugs than any other developed country in the world. So I don't really understand all of that and how that's like possible that in the US you go get the same exact drug that you could get in Canada or somewhere else for 3 times as more. But either way, I think it'll be interesting at least to see what he says. Maybe that's what he'll say today, Dennis, is that, hey, I'm the CEO of this company and I can't do anything about it.
Maybe I can't do anything about the pricing.
Maybe that
not
works.
My job to control the price.
Maybe that all works. I don't know.
I'd have to say that the use of like those drugs in Paris is probably pretty low in France. Number one, in Paris, everyone walks everywhere. Okay, well, at least I did, but 15, 16, 17,000 steps a day. Everyone walks or rides bikes, so that's good. And also just about everyone smokes. So I think that curves their appetite. But I was just looking at this Lilly chart here. What in the heck at no man's land here? I mean, you had that great, got hit in August, big rebound, back to all-time highs. Now just hovering here. I mean, looks like this 880, 900 level. If I was had this long term, I would keep an eye on that. I mean, of course, being a big part of the S&P, will carry it. But big move, backed off the all-time high, developing good support. Boom. Let's see if it can get back and clear that 940 area with Eli Lilly.
Viking Therapeutics got hit hard like yesterday too, VKTX, and it seems like every time this thing gets up to 70, it's a sell, and every time it gets down to the mid 50s, it's a buy. I hope it comes back down there. I will rebuy this thing if in the mid 50s if it gets there. I may even buy it sooner than that, but hoping we get another sell-off. Data due in November, I believe, for a VKTX, so we'll probably see a run up into that as well. So keep that in mind. That's one on my shopping list, but I want a little bit lower.
Have you guys looked at Viking Holdings at all? Ticker VIK.
Yeah, I trade it.
The only reason I ask about it is because like Kramer the other day was talking about Viking, and I thought he was talking about Viking Therapeutics because we talk about that stock more than Viking, the cruise line ship, but he was really talking about the cruise line ship, so there was a little confusing there to me. But
it's only been out since May.
Yeah,
I think it IPO'd in May.
Yeah, I think it's been the biggest IPO so far this year in 2024. Which, by the way, I mean, it seems like even with the market conditions easing, the market's been doing pretty well. It wasn't a surprise that companies didn't want to IPO in 2022 or whatever, but now I'm surprised we haven't seen more IPOs. We need to get our IPO guest on Kroll and see.
You know what? I haven't looked at CCL or RCL, and I don't know how long.
They're getting ready to report.
Don't tell me. I'm going to go CCL. I would say lower than I'm thinking, but the market's been pretty good. I'm 18. Oh, 1896. Yep. The market's helped it out. Wow.
You're just guessing the price.
I would say I hadn't looked at it in a long time. What a run this has had. Wow. Mr. Market helping out CCL. Good resistance here. Let's see if we can bust through 19. RCL, that thing was just going gangbusters for a while.
It's been best of breed for a very long time.
Oh,
it
yeah.
used to be Carnival, but it's RCL now, and that's unbelievable. When you look at a cruise line making all-time highs, when you have CCL, that's in the gutter, NCLH in the gutter, and they really are. $60 in 2019, it's $20 now, NCLH. CCL, $70 back in 2019 or 2018, $18 today, and then RCL is like, what? RCL was 120. It's 175, making new all-time highs. Who's the best? It's RCL.
They came out one earnings report. I don't know when it was. I'm looking at the chart here, but I think it might be going all the way back a while ago. And they basically said, oh yeah, we thought we were going to make $3. We're going to make $8. I mean, it was like something. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then I think it was back in this report. I think it was back here. They told you. They said, and probably I'm exaggerating here a little bit. I tend to do that. But I mean, they told you, like, we're going to make more money. But best of breed there. Still don't want to go on a cruise. But there you go. New trading at new all time highs. RCL.
One of them, what is it? Carnival reports next Monday, so we'll get some earnings.
But they
moves.
do it after our show is over. They wait. They do it at like
9:05.
Yeah.
They do. They're like the only stock that does that. They don't like us talking about them ahead of time, so they wait till 9:05. Okay, pre-market prep's done. We can report now. 9:15 actually, I think it is. I think
we've got some good boots on the ground in the chat too. Richard said he didn't like Royal Caribbean's food, so maybe we can go.
Oh.
That's a headwind for sure. Got to have good food on the cruise. Although when I went on one cruise in my lifetime, and I will say, like, I was young. I was like 12 at the time. I was blown away that everything was buffet style, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You could just eat as much as you want. I thought that was the best part of the cruise for sure. I was a little chubby at 12 years old.
Really? Can you just bring up a pic of that?
I can find
Chubby
one.
AB.
Yeah,
Chubby AB. I'll tell you one thing. My cruise recommendations is, if you want to stay safe, don't line up for the midnight dessert buffet, because the savages are on. I don't even know I don't know with COVID if they changed those restrictions a little bit, but man, that midnight buffet, they just ran up. For cruises, you got to go to Alaska. I got to do it. And then Lisa's also talking about a cruise somewhere in Europe. I can't remember. She's just going to try and drag me over there again.
That's the only one I've ever been on, was Alaska when I was like 12. It was beautiful. I wish
The problem is, when you go to Alaska on a cruise, you want to go on a cruise, you want to have good weather, swim in the pool and stuff. Well, you go on the cruise, it's freezing up there. You just stay in your room and stuff, like indoors the whole time.
No, Derek, you know what,
I get the beauty, but I want the warmth.
It was in August. It was like 80 degrees and sunny every single day. I mean, it wasn't like, you're not in the Bahamas, but it was really nice weather, but it was like, nice, cool summer weather, probably 80 and sunny. It wasn't, too hot or anything. Like, I don't remember swimming on the actual, they definitely had pools, but I don't know. I was young.
I'll tell you, I got some pictures from our Alaska trip, and we are not too far from a glacier, and I am wearing a fleece. It was not that bad out. Just like, huge calving glaciers. But all right.
Okay, summertime. Bucket list, summertime Alaska cruise. Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. We've got a couple more minutes before our guest.
Derek's in the background. Let's bring him in now. We like Derek. He's been hiding here in the background. So
yeah, if they come on early, you got to reward.
Come on early to get on early. That's how it works.
That's how it works. All right, we got Derek Oldensmith coming on from T3 Trading. We like talking to Derek here on the show. Let's go ahead and give him our intro. And when we come back, we'll see what Derek's been trading. All right, Derek Oldensmith again from T3 Trading. How you doing today, Derek?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good. So since the last time we've had you on, the Fed has cut interest rates. We have seen the market hit new all-time highs. Where do you stand? What stocks, what sectors have you been primarily trading?
Sure. So I went on vacation for a couple of weeks, which was great. And
was it a cruise?
No, not a cruise. I'm really not a cruise guy. I was in Japan for a couple of weeks, and did my best to tune out of the market. And I reduced my positions to a pretty minimal amount. I didn't get to flat. I never get to flat, but I reduced my positions a lot after all the volatility in July and August. It was a great opportunity just to take a couple of weeks and disappear. But I came back right in time for the Fed, and we've been jumping in. Obviously, markets moved higher. S&P broke out to all-time highs. Fed cut by 50 basis points. I'm struggling to really believe in this rally, to be totally honest. The technicals are still bullish, and I'm a believer in technical analysis, so I am not trying to necessarily overly fight the trend or anything, but I'm struggling to really believe in this upside move for a couple of reasons. One, I almost think we should be higher if there was going to be real momentum coming in off this 50 basis point cut and the expectation of these future cuts. Sure, we broke out to new all-time highs on the Thursday, the day after the Fed, but it wasn't like a move that had a lot of conviction. We haven't been able to close on highs on any of these days. Yesterday was also a very muted trading session. And I think that the VIX should actually be much lower based on the degree of the up move that we've had. So I don't see the VIX really confirming it, and that's probably because there's a lot of big players out there who are buying some deep out of the money puts for insurance purposes and in front of the election and everything else. But I'm struggling to fully believe in this market, and we're in a period of time here that's very seasonally weak. So I've got longs on because the trend is my friend. The technicals are still pointing higher, but I'll be honest, I'm being a little risk averse right now, and I have longs on, but I also have some shorts on, and I'm not trying to be 100% involved right now. I'm taking a little bit of a step back, and I'm curious to see if the SPYs can really lose like 565-ish where they broke out from. It could be a signal of a bigger upside false breakout that could lead to some lower price action. So that's where my head's at on the big picture right now.
I'm kind of with you, Derek. It's been a reluctant rally is what I would call it. We had the big pop, obviously, on the cut day, and then we gave it all back that day. And what happened was we had overseas markets really ripping, and then it kind of ripped us back up, and everybody's like, yeah, we do love it. It was just a shakeout. But now if you look at the IWM, which probably cares more about rates than anything else, it's leaking it away again here. So we know tech, has worked. You've got your Microsofts and Nvidias that have worked for a long time, but they've even paused here to a certain extent. We've got a couple stocks, Meta and Tesla, which are trying to hold up the market by themselves. Somebody I retweeted yesterday had like a thing with Meta holding up the whole market, and Meta's been a monster, and Tesla's been a monster as well. So you got two that have been holding it up. Amazon's been pretty good too. But Microsoft just kind of sitting here, not doing much. Apple's been meandering here for the better part of a month. So even the big dogs are taking a little pause here. But is this a pause, or do you think, again, you just gave your thoughts here, but do you think there's a case here where the markets can go higher, even though the market seems reluctant right now?
There's definitely a case where the markets can go higher, and I think that case is that the big funds are still fairly underinvested because of the big washouts that we had in August and September. All the data that I've seen have shown that the big funds and the CTAs are still relatively uninvested. So if we were to begin to really break up and confirm this up move, which I don't think has fully happened yet, there's a chance that a lot of real chasing has to come back in from underinvested funds and the CTAs who have to buy this market up. But we're not seeing that, at least not yet. There's no real confirmation. So I've been, like I said, trying to take a little bit of a step back, and I'm watching these levels. The longer we can hold up where we are or begin to break higher, the higher the probability that chasing comes in. At the same time, if we really begin to lose the levels that we've just broke out from, and I'm eyeing like SPY 563 to 565, then I think that becomes a signal that buying really wasn't there. And you pointed to a couple interesting names. Obviously, Meta has been on fire. It had the best of all the Mag 7 earnings reports, I thought, back at the beginning of August this summer. So Meta's been great. Tesla had a beautiful technical wedge breakout that has given some phenomenal continuation. But the other names haven't been there. Microsoft announced a $60 billion buyback a few days ago, and that marked the top. And you look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA pushed the entire market higher back on September 11th. And since then, it's held this 120 resistance. It has not participated in the up move with the market at all post-Fed. And I'm looking at a support level here around this like 114, 115 in NVIDIA with some relative weakness these last several days. And I'm like, well, what happens if NVIDIA actually loses that level? For disclosure purposes, I do have a smallish short on in NVIDIA right now. But
you're like the only person in the world short NVIDIA.
Yes, seriously. And
I've never seen anybody. There's 48 analysts, I think, that cover the stock, and there's not one with a sell rating. That's a scary thought, too.
It's been that way for a while. But, the sell side analysts, all they do is chase price. But, NVIDIA is wedging out, and if it really were to lose that 114, 115, that could be actually the catalyst that causes the S&P and the NASDAQ to lose those breakout levels that could be a little bit of a bigger pullback. So just some of the things I'm paying attention to.
Derek, when you're looking at these markets, and I know you came back from after your vacation and stuff, and you're looking at it, and like, I mean, you're right. Like we broke. It feels like we should just plow through 5,800 here, right? No resistance. It's got what the Fed wanted, but if you're trying to take long positions up here, especially if you just came back. I mean, it's hard because you've had like some jagged lows, we've had some spikes, and then the spikes come right back up. When when you have this kind of like you want to be long, you kind of have the indecision. Do you go? I mean, you're not going to lean on last week's lows, right? That's so far down. Do you try and look like for a double bottom, to kind of lean on? Do you look at multiple closes in the same area? When you know you want to be long, but you just don't know what your appetite for risk is, how do you drill down on an entry and a potential exit?
Sure. So I pay attention to extension, and I pay attention to certain chart patterns that are what I call like trend continuation patterns. So if you rewind to Thursday of last week, we had a massive gap up post Fed. And at highs that day, we didn't close on highs, but at highs that day, the market was pretty extended to the upside based on the way that I view extension. And if you look at there's another thing I like to pay attention to, which is a short-term tactical indicator that had us overcooked even on Thursday's close, and we closed off of highs. So Friday, then we had a little bit of a pullback. We had a downside tail, and we closed off lows. That Friday pivot low is your spot, especially when the ADMA catches up. So that candle, like if you look at the QQQ or even the SPY, that candle with that downside tail when the ADMA caught up to that low, I call that a continuation doji, or like a continuation hammer doji, and that's a trend continuation pattern. So that's the spot where on the pullback, buyers came in and said, all right, we're willing to defend this area. So for QQQ ETF, that's 478 spot 30. So that's the spot where buyers came in and said, all right, we're willing to come in and defend this market here. So that's the key spot. You can initially look to be long for trend continuation versus that QQQ 478.30, or the same level for the SPYs is basically 565 spot 17. And that's a spot you can initially lean long versus for continuation. The risk isn't too bad on that. And that's also the spot where if you lose it, I think it's signaling that you have a potential bigger problem. That's the key inflection point to pay attention to in this market right now, is last Friday's low.
What would you say? And I'll go to the S&P here. What would you say to like a perma bear? Saying, wow, we came up to all-time highs in July here. Whew, we lost it, man. We came back up in late August, September, lost it. Now we're just back up here again in between those two zones. What an incredible selling area. Time to ring the register. Time to get short. How would you set that up, or what would you say to that person?
Sure. So first of all, any perma bears are probably out of the business by this point in the rally since 2010, which doesn't mean that you can't be tactically bearish. And that's kind of honestly where my head's at. So I would agree with someone who is tactically bearish. So the way that I like to approach markets is I like to take a fundamental perspective, what my viewpoint is based on all the data and all the information, but then I need to confirm that with the technicals. So I would somewhat describe myself, and I'm usually not this way. I tend to be an optimist. I tend to be a bull. It's probably because I started my proprietary trading career with T3 in 2010, and everyone knows what the market has broadly done from 2010 to 2024. So it's just my natural thought process to want to be bullish. Yet at certain periods of time, for the reasons that we were just describing, I do feel a little bit more tactically bearish than otherwise. However, feelings and thought process is one thing. I need the technicals to actually confirm that I'm right. Because if technicals don't confirm that the idea is right, then it doesn't matter. Everyone's wrong all the time in this business. It's part of it. And the way that people are successful or not successful isn't necessarily because their ideas are right or their ideas are wrong. It's how they handle things when their ideas are right and when their ideas are wrong. So you're right on your idea. Did you maximize your reward? You're wrong on your idea, which happens to everybody. Did you minimize your risk? That's the whole key to the business, I think. So right now I would describe myself as like fundamentally tactically bearish in like a short to medium run. But again, I'm still looking at a market that's pretty much sitting here at all-time highs that gave a very healthy pivot low last Friday. So to that person who wants to be tactically bearish, I would say, you know what, I agree with you, but let's let the market prove itself. You don't need to short the absolute top penny in the market in order to be able to make money if we are going to get a real pullback. So let's start by seeing if we lose Friday's low, if we lose the breakout levels that broke out, Thursday of last week, and then we can say to ourselves, okay, well, what type of downside retracement can we look at off of this? What type of potential reversal can we look at off this? And how do we best profit from it?
AB's on mute. The old Joel trick.
Oh,
That's not Dennis. Don't call it. You do
It's
it.
your trick. You do it once
not
a show usually.
I'm not doing it. I'll
Sorry.
go a steak dinner. I don't do it the rest of the week.
okay.
Okay. Joel bets on everything, Derek. Like, this is what he does.
Yes,
like,
I told you not to say
you
that.
go to a sports game with him. He's
Now
betting,
you're getting
like,
in
with you something
trouble.
Every
Now
5
you're
minutes.
getting in trouble. Now
Yeah.
you're getting in
So
trouble.
you're saying it
where's
should be
his
long
average going?
DraftKings.
Okay, he hits a base hit. Where's the average going? We're 5 games into the season. Is it going? I'm over under here. Bet on everything. That's what
One
it does.
I should be buying DraftKings. I'm always looking for the trade.
Oh yeah,
so.
Joel, keep that in business. There you go.
Bet all your
AB keeps that in business. Go AB.
So I was just gonna. I mean, what you were talking about, Derek, is staying tactically short. But what do you do if you're wrong? And I just wanted to use that in a tangible example here. So for your Nvidia short, like, do you have a defined level that if Nvidia runs to, you're out of the short? Do you have a level where you would add more if it keeps running, but you still think it's going to pull back? How do you just walk me through that trade real quick?
Sure. So I'm generally watching 120 on the upside and like the 114 to 115 area on the downside. If I see us breaking lower with good volume confirmation as the market is also breaking lower, that might be a spot that I consider adding for downside momentum of a breakdown of this wedge that it's been building out. The flip side is if it breaks above 120, it's starting to look like that same wedge is actually breaking to the upside, and it's starting to prove that my idea is wrong. The way that I trade is that I tend to be very, very greedy with profits. I'm relatively risk averse when I first press the button and I first get involved in a trade. But if I'm up a lot of money in a trade, I will sometimes give back very significant amounts of money to potentially make more. So 120 is a spot where the market, if it breaks higher, where NVIDIA is beginning to tell me that the short idea is wrong. I'll probably still be in the money on my short if it breaks above 120, just because I've traded it pretty well. So you might not see me just, auto buy stop out of the position on the break of 120. That just becomes a spot where I start to watch it super, super closely to try to see, is this just a quick blip in the radar where they're shaking people out to the upside and I've got enough, positive P&L where I can be a little bit patient and I can play with it. But if it's really breaking through that 120 and the volume confirmation is there and the market's breaking out and the performance chasing that we discussed looks like it's coming in, then I got to get out of the way on that short pretty quickly.
Would you use a closing basis? Because obviously, if if you're trying to be a little bit more patient, because I'm looking at it and it poked its head over 120, went to 120.79. You haven't had a close over 120 since August 28th. Also on a relative strength basis, it's just not back up where the market when we had that August rally. So you like to use the close? You just kind of, okay, it broke through it intraday, I'll keep an eye on it. How do you do?
You have to be a little bit careful using that sort of closing concept, especially if you have a lot of size, which I currently don't have a lot of size right now. But if you have a lot of size, you have to be worried about that closing concept, just because the way that NVIDIA has the ability to run, it could be breaking through that 120 and I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait for the close, and it closes at $127 and now I'm down, 5 figures in the trade, and I have a really big problem for myself, and I'm losing significantly more than I would otherwise. So I think it's definitely a function of your sizing in the trade. And for me with this one, I am light enough that I could use some sort of closing concept, but it's really not the way that I do it. So this is one of those tricky things because, as you guys know, I work with and I mentor a lot of traders, and I always have to balance being honest with people about what I do personally with my own trading versus telling people what I think the right thing to do is or the right way to trade is, because I got to be 100% honest. Those don't always coincide perfectly. And that's just because of whatever experience level, account size, ability to manage risk. So I always advocate for like newer traders, especially who are first getting involved in the business, and probably for most people, to use very hard stop losses. 120 is your level. Have your stop loss in at 120. You get stopped out. You're out of the trade. Reassess things. I think that's the right thing for the vast majority of traders to do. I actually relatively rarely at this point trade with very hard stops in my trading. I do, but I would say it's 25% of the time on my trades I have very hard stops. So for me, if I see this breakthrough 120, that 120 area, it's not necessarily going to be holding to the close, which could mean it rips $6 more against me. It's this crazy momentum stock that has the ability to move really big at certain times. It's more, what are all the other layers of probability that I pay attention to actually telling me in this moment? Because that's the more dynamic part of trading. Trading comes down to risk, reward, and probability of success. We all know that. Risk reward, for the most part, is relatively simple math. The more difficult dynamic part about it is the probability of success, because there are so many influencing factors on every trade that you get in, right? Very simply put, if I buy a stock and the market's moving higher, I have a higher probability of success than if I'm shorting a stock and the market's moving higher. That's just one example. So I want to see, as it's breaking through that 120, well, what does the market look like to me at this time? What does the volume look like to me at this time? What is the profile of the market dynamics at this time? Is everything now indicating to me that this is the breakout through 120 that's going to be similar to the Tesla move that we just had, where Tesla just broke out of this beautiful wedge. In some ways, it's almost a very similar pattern. Tesla broke out of this beautiful wedge and broke to the upside, and there was huge volume confirmation. And we know the way that stock is, where it can just go. In which case, I got to get out of this thing probably relatively quickly on the break of that 120. Or am I looking at this and, you know, the market is upside extended, and the market's not looking ripe for continuation right now, and the volume is not really there, and this just looks more like it's a quick kind of shake and bake to the upside to push people out, and I have enough of a P&L cushion in the trade where I don't need to be panicking on the tick of 120 that I'm, you know, down a boatload of money. I can kind of watch it and breathe with the stock a little bit.
And what if some analyst comes in right now and gives it like a super upgrade? Would you just like add a layer on the short side there, be a little bit contrarian, or would you wait for the technicals to show you when to add?
I would still wait for the technicals to show me when to add, but on that type of situation, I would really pay attention to what the reaction is, because I find that when you have like good news that occurs for a stock or for the market, and this is almost one of my bearish thought process for the market as a whole right now with the good news that we just had, when you don't get the reaction that you should get, if an analyst came out with a crazy upgrade right now with the most bullish comments ever, this thing should instantly be breaking through that 120 level. So I'm going to be paying attention to if that were to happen, and it
reaction.
Right, because then that's a signal potentially for the other side.
Real quick here, Derek, we're running out of time, but I want to give you at least a second to talk about this ProDesk virtual trading floor. We have the link in the description. I'm going to throw it in the chat as well, or you can hit the QR code on the screen. What do people get when they sign up for that?
Sure. So the ProDesk virtual trading floor is what my team of professional traders has been using in lieu of our old physical trading floor ever since COVID hit. And for your audience, you have the opportunity to join us for the rest of the week. You can be part of my professional team of traders. We're doing a morning meeting every day, an afternoon meeting every day. We get news in there real time, large order option flow. It's a phenomenal resource, and I think it'll be a great opportunity to educate your listeners. Tomorrow, I'm speaking at the Market Minds conference here in downtown New York City, so I actually won't be in there tomorrow. But my partner, Patrick Hall, will be running the show and doing the meetings in my place, and he's phenomenal, and everybody's going to learn a lot from him tomorrow and hopefully from me the rest of the week.
Boom, there you have it. Well, Derek Oldensmith from T3, thanks for hopping on Benzinga's pre-market prep with us today. We'll catch up with you soon, and good luck at that event tomorrow.
My pleasure, like always, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Derek.
All righty, y'all. We've got a few minutes left. Joe, I'm going to pop your charts back up here.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Let's do some earnings preview. We mentioned earlier, we got Micron earnings coming up. We got KB Homes tonight after the close. Where do you guys want to start?
Go with Micron. This has been just an excellent run up ahead of the event. It's really worked well. We talk about being long stocks ahead of reports. The stock has just been moving up ahead of the report here. I've been playing it from the long side. I've also been long it in my long-term account as well, so playing it multiple ways here. Won't hold it long in the trading account through the report. Well, I hold it long in the investment account through the report. I might lighten up. I don't know yet. I haven't fully decided on it yet, but it's been a really good run. Kind of depends what does the next 2 days. We have today.
Yeah, it's gonna
the
be hard.
big. So let's see, what the market sentiment. Things seem to be changing so quickly here too, Joel. I mean, it seems like, all of a sudden everybody's got their bear hat on, then they got their bull hat on, then they got their bear hat on. It's been just a little bit of a chop fest really the last month or so. Even though we've been up for the last week and a half, we were really ugly at really ugly the first week of August. Then we were really awesome the last 3 weeks on. Then we sold off the first week of September. Now we're rallying up here again. It's still been like a chop fest. Micron's interesting, but the predictable run ahead of the earnings has occurred.
Yeah, and boy, I had a good feel for this one yesterday. I don't have as good a feel for it today, just because there's really nothing in there, and I don't want to get all super optimistic on you and tell you, yeah, you're going to be able to peel out of this thing at 98. That's 4 highs between 97.68 and 98.41 at the end of August. I mean, I think that would be a ultimate target for today. The more thing I look at this one, just try and stay green. You're already up $1.52. If it stay green, just let it kind of meander. Look at the average daily range and see. I mean, for this to be up another $3 from here is not out of the question. But major resistance at 98 now for Micron.
All right, the other one we mentioned was KB Homes coming out after the close today. Interest rate cut's supposed to be good for the home builders, but I don't think it's going to move that quickly for KB Homes. But we'll see if they give any color on that. Again, we had Lennar report last week, so a little bit of a bar there to compare KB Homes to.
I'm long the stock right now ahead of the report, but again, this was an overnight trade. We'll see how it goes at the open. Again, looking for strength ahead of the open.
Yesterday's high. Yep. Oh, yesterday's high is way up there at 89.45. So don't know and that is just shy of the all-time high. 89.50 major resistance. That's up $1.20. If it holds the open, volume's starting to taper off a little bit too. So once again, if it goes green here, yesterday's low 87.09.
2 other stocks, Snowflake with the convertible. That's why the stock was trading down at 108 last night. It actually has come off those lows and is getting most of it back here. So that's the good news. Bad news is this stock is still an epic disaster. It has been just one of the worst ones because we know a lot of tech has done well. This thing's at all-time lows. So stocks pop up a little bit the last couple of days and they shove a convertible down your face. That's really not what you want as a shareholder. But there is support down here. We're finding buyers in the 107, 110 area there.
Yeah.
And it seems to be holding here again.
Another offering, Hawaiian. We mentioned this one on the pre-market show. You got to be careful when stocks are in trouble, when they have rallies, significant rallies. They need money. We all know they're still in big trouble over those fires. I believe the offering price is 9.25. So those areas tend to be support. The lowest you've traded is 9.39 for Hawaiian Electric. We got a minute left. Do we want to
SMAR? It's an official deal. David Faber just announcing a few minutes ago that the deal is done at $56.50. $55 is where the Arabs have it right now. This was already rumored last week, so there's not much of a premium because the stock was trading 45 when this was starting to get rumored. So it is official. Smart Sheets off the board.
What does this company do?
I don't know. They're smart. They make smart sheets. I have no idea.
Make smart. Yeah, I have no idea.
Well,
Smart sheet. Let's go find out. We'll ask her.
I
guess
bet
we'll
you
ask
they're a
chat.
tech company.
Enables teams to manage projects, automate processes, and scale programs in one powerful platform. So,
beautiful
service offering for collaboration and work management.
Joel, sorry, was there another stock you wanted to mention before we wrap
Sounds
up?
like Slack. Oh yeah.
I mean, Lowe's, Melius Capital. I've never heard of it. They started with the buy rating, and boom, it's up 266. Is where it hit. I don't know. I'd be a little careful. This is a gap and go above all-time highs, so 8,500 shares. If your target's 265.75, you're getting a chance on it. Also saw CRM. That got a price target raise, I believe. That is
upgraded.
upgraded. Wow. Look out. You clear weird chart. You clear 270 here, then you have these 3 indecision days and then some gaps to fill. So let's see if you can get a 270 bid in Salesforce.
There you go. Well, that takes us to 9:01 a.m. Eastern, which means we're past due. Time to wrap.
Well, we're missing one thing now.
Joel, who do we have coming?
I got a new guest coming on tomorrow, folks. A guy I really, really like, and I've interviewed him a couple times, and from a really good firm, too. We're going to have Kevin Merritt on from Wedbush Securities.
Oh, nice.
He is the head of the firm's equity research team, the managing director, and this guy has some trading background in him too, so he has some good stories to share with us. Really looking forward to speaking with Kevin Merritt. Make sure you set your alarm to be tuned in to pre-market prep, especially at 8:35.
There you go. Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in to pre-market prep with us this morning. Of course, as always, we have live trading starting up right after this. Stay tuned to hang out with Ryan Faluna and the crew. Other than that, we'll see you guys at 8 a.m. Make sure to be there for our brand new pre-market prep guest. Till then, guys, stay green, and we'll see you tomorrow.